2 months ago I made a video listing all the changes and additions to Minecraft throughout its history, and despite forgetting some changes, some more important than others, I think that this video really helps you remembering or learning about the evolution of Minecraft. And while last time I was pretty neutral, the Redstone update, or 1.5, was one of the more important ones. The Frostburn update, or 1.10, added barely anything for the most part. I decided for this video to just go through these updates again, but this time I'm picking, in my opinion, the best and worst edition. Just a heads up though, in a lot of situations you'll hear me say that a specific edition is the worst, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad edition. Sometimes only good things come out of these updates, and I'm just picking the one that I found the least useful or memorable. Without further ado, let's kick things with 1.1. Even though it's the official release of the game, it would be wrong to say that the best part of the update was the full game. After 1.0 released in 2011, and Minecraft started its development in 2009, meaning that we have 2 years of alphas and beta to work with. With that being said, what did the game add in order to be deemed as the official release? And while it added quite a lot of strong features, Brewery, the Nether Fortress, the End, and what I consider to be the best part about this update, enchanting. While I was tempted to say the end because after all it's an entire dimension that gave Minecraft a proper ending and a proper goal, I decided to settle with enchanting because look at it this way. What is the most common and time consuming thing to do in vanilla Minecraft? I'm no magician, but I'm 99% sure that you either thought about farming or building. And to do that, you would want good tools, a sword capable of killing fast with good loots, or a pickaxe being able to break stone at blazing speed. This is why I'm putting enchanting over the end, because beating the Nether Dragon while being a cool novelty is just that, a novelty that you won't think about for a long time after beating it. As for the worst thing added in this update, I would say magma cubes. Once again, magma cubes being there doesn't mean that they are detrimental to the game, but everything else added in this update are just better. And besides, at the time, magma cubes didn't even drop a magma cream, so you couldn't even kill them for fire resistance potions, you had to manually craft them. .1 was named the Adventure Update Part 2, and while despite the name implying that there is a continuity to this update, the changes doesn't really follow each other. Not only that, the update is pretty small, because back then major updates only had a couple months separating each other, and the development team pretty much consisted of 1 or 2 guys. The notable additions from this update were bow enchantments, blacksmith's chest, and my pick for the best addition, mob spawn eggs. And I don't really think I need to explain myself for this one. They're really good for testing, and in creative play it's pretty fun to mess around with them. Or even when you're playing with friends, it's pretty fun to troll them. Not that I would understand because I don't have any. As for the worst thing in this update, I think my pick has to be the blacksmith chest. Wait, hold on, I have a good explanation. While blacksmith chests are a cool add-on to villages, and you will certainly loot them if you saw one, their use is only good in early game. After all, the most common things you will find in these chests are a bit of iron equipment, some bread, some apples, and if you're lucky you could find a bit of obsidian and diamond. All of those things are very easily obtainable, and when you factor in that blacksmiths were more uncommon back then, I think it makes sense to say that blacksmith chests were the worst addition in 1.1. The update was nameless, but it added one of the most hated biomes to date, jungles. And funny enough, that's my pick for the best edition. While I myself am not a big jungle enjoyer, I would say that at the time, Minecraft's terrain was pretty bare bones, and I needed some variety, and jungles did just that. But jungle also meant a new type of wood, easy access to vine, and all of those blocks are used quite often in building. And come on, what was more important in this update? Wire charges, desert wells, these things are so useless that they are my pick for the worst edition. Sure, they make desert look less empty, but they have no purpose and they don't even look visually interesting either. Worst pick, not even debatable. This update also didn't have a name, and I would say that it's one of the most underrated updates because it came with a lot of quality of life changes, new menu options, UI revamp, but it also added things that we take for granted today, like wooden slabs. but in my opinion, the best addition isn't even those slabs, but emeralds, and more specifically the trading system. It might come as a surprise to some old players here, because back then emeralds and trading weren't that useful, but the fact is that they gave a purpose to villagers when they were useless in the first place, and this is something I value a lot. And today it became a pretty big aspect for the game with the new trading system. As for the worst addition to this update, I think it has to be tripwires, because be honest, when was the last time you used a tripwire hook? Even in complicated redstone system, I don't see that being used ever. In fact, the most common use I see for them is as a replacement for kitchen sinks, which barely scratches the surface as their intended use. This update was pretty much the beginning for slower update releases, but in return they will be packed with much more content. And if there is one thing that the pretty scary update is remembered for, is the Wither, the second boss of Minecraft, one that you can respawn infinitely that will drop the Nether Star for the beacon, who grants you access to all these cool effects that you couldn't get in survival, like haste, jump boost, and resistance. And it's for those reasons that my pick for the best edition of this update is the command block. Wait, hold on, shut up, I can explain, I swear. The reason why I put command blocks above the beacon is due to their insane versatility. Sure, in survival it doesn't do anything, like you can't get them, but servers and map makers benefited immensely from them. Before, a server having a game like Capture the Flag was unheard of, but with command blocks it became possible. Map creation also became more ambitious and filled with much more content, mobs with special armor, special abilities. Those things weren't possible before command blocks were added to the game. And sure, today minigame servers don't rely on command blocks anymore, but at the time it was revolutionary. Hey, feel free to disagree. On the other hand though, I think you're all going to agree with me on this one, but 1.4 worst addition is probably the bat. Like, bats have stayed the same to this day and they still don't serve much of a purpose, other than making caves feel less empty or accidentally leading you to one of them with the noise they make. That's about as useful as they can get. The redstone update is probably one of the most important updates to this game. This update took redstone and made it so much more useful. And while sadly I can't group every important blocks and I can't choose cores despite it being my favorite block in the game. The reason is that there is just one block that is used everywhere by everyone. Doesn't matter if you're new, old, or even a vegetable. And that block is the hopper. Like, think about it for a second. If you create a farm, you need a hopper. If you want to create a complex redstone machine, you need hoppers. I don't recall one instance in the entirety of my Minecraft worlds where I didn't use a hopper. For those reasons, the hopper is easily the best addition, and it's very hard to argue otherwise. But hey, if you don't think so, write down a comment. As for the worst addition, I think it has to go to minecarts with chests, simply because no one would run the risk of your items getting dropped on the floor because a mob broke the minecart or something similar. Plus, you have to spend an insane amount of resources just to set up railroads safe enough to traverse your items safely. It's tedious, time consuming, and it's probably faster to just traverse your items one by one. 1.6 was the horse update, and well, the big addition were horses, obviously, but despite the name, I wouldn't say that horses were the best addition. I wouldn't even say name tags were the best addition. I would say that hardened clay, aka terracotta, was the best addition. This block is so commonly used in builds and big projects, to the point where it's hard to see a big build that don't have a single block of hardened clay. But you know what block isn't used commonly in builds? Hay bales. Once again, it doesn't mean that hay bales are useless, but come on. Where am I supposed to put them? They're not better than horses, not better than name tags, nor the new effects, so for this reason, hay bales are the worst addition of 1.6. Minecraft 1.7 was named the update that changed the world, and the name couldn't be more accurate. It was one of the major turning points in Minecraft terrain generation. First of all, it added a lot of biomes like mega taigas, mesa biomes, root forest biomes, birch forest, you get the point. Even though the update was packed with a lot of content, it didn't really add a lot of new items. It more so improved on every aspect of the game so far. And there is one thing that they revamped entirely, and it's the terrain generation. And I'm not talking about the new biomes, I do mean how the terrain gets created. If you didn't know, before 1.7, the world was like big patches of islands separated by insanely large oceans. These oceans could ask you to stay in a boat and press W for 30 minutes straight. All of this just to find another big island. Just for comparison, here's terrain generation before 1.7. and here's terrain generation after 1.7. As you can see, there is far less oceans. It made traversing the land less boring, and for that reason, the terrain generation gets the #1 spot for this update. As for the worst edition, like I said, there wasn't a lot of new items that were added. Like we got stained glass, a couple flowers, and a couple fishes, and it's really cool and all. But there's one fish that just deserves the spot, and you know which fish I'm going to talk about. Like, it's the clownfish. The name couldn't be more fitting. It's pathetic, it's a meme item, it serves no purpose. You can't cook it, you can't even eat it raw because it only replenishes half a hunger bar, and you can't even brew it into potions. The only thing missing here is a red nose, and it's possibly one of the worst items in the game. .1.1.1. You are my most played version by far, for all those times I needed to play on the minigame server, but I never really looked into what you actually added. A new structure, a new enchantment, new mobs, and while I'm tempted to go Death Strider the best edition, the new enchantment just easily takes the cake for this one. And it's very easy to see why. It made Lapis more valuable, and most importantly, it made enchanting so much more enjoyable. How? By removing the big barrier that was XP grinding. If you didn't know, back then, you didn't see the enchantment you got before enchanting, and when you spent 30 levels, you spent 30 levels, and grinding all that XP again was very annoying. But now for the low price of 3 lapis lazuli, you only need to use 3 XP levels, who are way easier to get back. But because this update came with a lot of good stuff, it's also very hard to tell what's the worst thing. So I'm picking rabbit hide, because well, it's just worse leather. You can't use it on its own, you need 4 of them to make 1 piece of leather, and we all know how much leather you need to make libraries or to make armor if you're into that. Like, it's cool that it's here, but if it wasn't, nothing would really change. Let's talk about the most controversial update in Minecraft, and if you follow me, you already know why I think that is, so I'm not really gonna bother you with the details again. TLDR, the supposed combat updates just make combat worse, so my pick for the worst edition is definitely the combat revamp. If you want to know more about it and why I think that is, you can just check out this video. While I like to clown on this update for what it did bad, I think I don't really appreciate why it did good. I mean, we got a new structure, new mobs, a new sub-dimension in the end, a way to respawn the Ender Dragon, mending enchantment, bow changes, new crop, and probably the best item ever added to Minecraft, the Elytra. Not only is it the fastest method of traveling to this day, but also the item is just fun to play around. So it's no surprise that I was nominated for the best addition to 1.9. The 1.10 update was called the Frostburn update, but personally I like to call it the bare bones update, because coming from updates like 1.7, 1.8 and 1.9, the 1.10 update really left you asking for where's the rest instead of where's more. 4 blocks, 2 variants of existing mobs, 1 passive mob, and 2 new structures that are non-depressive. With that being said, I think the best addition to this update is the red nether brick, simply because it's the block that will be more commonly used in builds, compared to the 3 others that is. As for the worst addition, I think this goes to the fossils, because let's be real for a second. Until they got added into the nether, have you ever came across one? And when you did, were you even excited? Not only are they really rare, they don't really offer much. They could get removed and no one will ever know. The exploration update was the first update to introduce a structure that big. Found in the roof forest biome, the wooden mansion is not only very big, but it's also very fun to traverse, and added multiple new enemies to it, always keeping you on your toes. At first glance, it's tempting to say that this is the best addition, but something else was added, and well, that specific block just trumps the wooden mansion. That block in question is the shulker box. Remember when I said that minecarts with chests were the worst addition in 1.5? Mainly because they failed their only purpose, being carrying items from point A to point B safely? Well, shulker boxes not only succeed at doing this, but also let you carry a lot more items easily and safely. It's basically a replacement for backpacks, as just like hoppers, there isn't a single instance where it's not worth it to just grab a shulker box. They're that useful, but something that were pretty useless were iron nuggets. I say were because at the time iron nuggets didn't have a useful craft. It just allows you to craft iron nuggets into an iron ingot again, but why would you craft an iron nugget in the first place? It just didn't make any sense. The World of Color update is most well known for adding parrots and changing the color palette to look more vivid. And even though I'm not that good at building, I'm still gonna go with concrete, not only because they come in two variants, concrete powder and concrete, but their more smoother design compared to terracotta allowed you to play with the color palette a lot more. And I know that a lot of builders actually benefited from this, so this is why I think they deserve the #1 spot. As for the worst update, well, I don't really know, to be honest, because the additions are all pretty similar, and I'm not going to say parrots, like, come on, look at them. They're dancing. So I'm going to settle with colored beds, because they're probably the least used blocks in building. You know, when that update released, I was still grinding 1.8 and 1.7 PP, so I pretty much didn't know anything about this update, but if I wasn't, I think this update would be one of my favorites, because they took oceans that were pretty boring to look and explore and just to traverse, and they brought life to it. You've got shipwrecks, sea vegetation, turtles, dolphins, and in my opinion, one of the best biomes, coral reefs, which is my pick for this update. They're very colorful, they make you want to explore them, they can be used in building, although it's a bit annoying to maintain water contact, and it perfectly fits the theme for, you know, an aquatic update. You know what doesn't fit the theme of an aquatic update though? Phantoms. Has anyone ever played Minecraft and went, oh boy, I love phantoms, they're so cool and too late to not annoy me? No one has ever said that. No one likes them and no one will mind if they got removed. .14 will always be an update I respect, because they took this basic structure that are villages and actually made them feel like it was, you know, a village. Which feels very stupid to say, but villages have stayed the same for 14 updates. 8 years of seeing the same boring village and seeing villagers actually becoming useful when they've been consistently memed on for 8 years is insanely good. Now they're so important we make entire training halls just for them. And because villages became that much more valuable, it's normal to give an incentive to protect them. Presenting to you villager raids, who are my pick for this update. Not only are they fun to do, but you also get a lot of good stuff. The villagers offer cheaper prices, like, this was definitely one of the main cores of this update, and it delivered on that. Like, you're telling me that if I play tower defense I get a lot of good stuff? Sign me in! At first glance it's hard to find something that's bad or neutral about this update, everything is just good. And I was even ready to write off brown mushrooms as the worst addition, but upon revisiting it, I found something that I completely forgot existed. Leather horse armor. Don't lie, you probably didn't even know it was in the game in the first place. The only benefit it has over gold, iron and diamond horse armor is that this is actually craftable, but by the time you get a base and horses, you probably looted a lot of different chests and got multiple spares of iron, gold and diamond horse armor. And to be honest, when you have one diamond horse armor, you don't need any type of horse armor. This does not break. Like, I don't mind them being in the game, but there was a reason we all forgot about it. You know, modern Minecraft updates are really big. I mean, you have 1.13 that gave new life to the oceans, 1.14 that gave new life to villages, and then you have 1.15 and it gave us bees and honey. And that's pretty much it. Okay, I know that the whole purpose of this update was to fix bugs, hence the name, Buzzy Bees, Buggy Bees. Or maybe it means busy bees and the bees are supposed to be the developers. Huh. So I'm cutting this update some slack. With that being said, well, I think the best addition is honey blocks. The reason for it is that it provides a gold alternative to slime blocks, and it's definitely easier to mass produce early game. I may not be that good at redstone, in fact I'm pretty bad at redstone, but even a pleb like me see the incredible usefulness in slime blocks. So having a block that does the exact same thing but that is easier to produce is just nice to have. When it comes to the worst addition though, again it's really complicated to say because everything is pretty similar when it comes to usefulness, but I think I'm going to settle with the iron golem cracking itself up the more damage it takes. Don't get me wrong, it's pretty cool, but that's just a cosmetic effect, nothing would change. No one would really ask for it if it wasn't in the game, so this is why I'm saying this is the worst addition to 1.15. The Never update is easily in my top 5 favorite updates, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of people think that way. After all, it took this bare-bone dimension that was the Never and made it so much more interesting. New mobs, 4 biomes, a new structure with 3 different variants to find more loot, a new set of armor and tools, and it's really hard to find something that's just not good about it. So I sadly have to choose Quartz Brick. And once again, I hate to say this because quartz is literally my favorite building block, but I can't find something worse. And just like it's difficult to find something bad, it's also also very difficult to find something that is just the best. Everything is so good. I can say one single biome because all of them are almost as interesting as each other. Neverite is really good, but you can live without it. After all, no one really expected this, so I'm choosing the Pigstep music disc. You probably find it very odd for me to put it here, and to be honest, I understand you, but if it wasn't for the massive influence it had over the gaming community, I would probably not put it here. Like, 1.16 came out in June 2020, and at that point, I haven't played Minecraft for a solid 3 years, but I have heard the soundtrack multiple times. I've heard memes about this soundtrack multiple times. I was just surprised 2 years later when I realized that this actually came from Minecraft, and to be honest, it slaps, so I just feel obligated to put it here. It's that iconic. The Caves and Cliffs update is another really important update. With so much content, in fact, they had to be split into 2 parts, and this is easily my favorite update. And since it was spread out through 1.17 to 1.18, this means that I'm going to do something similar to this video, where I'm going to treat this update as one single entity. But to compensate, I'm going to pick the 2 best things and the 2 worst things. With that being said, I think the best addition to this update was definitely the cave generation revamp. Like, come on. Ever since Minecraft was in beta, caves have always looked the same, and it always felt like a boring chore rather than a cool exploration trip. But now you have cave biomes with specific mobs only spawning there, and they also became huge and very pretty to look at. And because of all the extra space it has now, a lot more mobs can spawn in it, making caving much more dangerous. And it's good, it should be that way. After all, you're going inside the earth, you should put yourself at big risks. As for the second best thing in this update, well, like the name implies, we looked at the caves, now it's time to look at the cliffs. And to be honest, the new mountains are insane. And more specifically, the Jagged Peaks biome. They are just out of this world. Like, before, people were creating mountains like this using plugins like World Edit. Now you can just find them naturally by just loading your Minecraft world. It's an interesting terrain and it just creates a beautiful view. As for the worst additions, I think you all know where this is going. I mean, if you play Minecraft on PC, you probably have something called Optifine or Sodium. You know, it has this feature where it lets the user zoom in without your view being obstructed. So having an item that takes up an inventory space that lets you zoom in with your view being obstructed is just something I don't value at all. On the bright side though, they're not as useless as glow squids. Get it? Cause glow squids, they're bright. Please subscribe. Yeah, jokes aside, I do mean glow squids are the second worst, simply because squids are already useless. I mean, almost useless. Like, they do provide you with black dye. Glow squids, on the other hand, they don't even provide you with a dye. They just brighten up the inside of an item frame and add a white stroke around letters inside the signs. Like, it's neat and all, but I can live without it. You can probably live without it. 1.19 is the update that made me return to Minecraft, funny enough, but I wouldn't consider it like a big update or anything. Like, sure, the mangrove swamp is pretty neat, frogs are pretty cool, allays are there. I can't be the only one that finds them out of place in this game, right? The big bird from this update was the warden and the ancient city, which happens to be my pig. The loot inside of it is interesting, the visual of the city is superb, and come on, a dungeon designed around sounds? This is such a cool idea. The warden is also an absolute punishment for failing at sneaking around this place. The worst part about this update though? Well, remember when I called minecarts with chests the worst update of 1.5? Again? Well, we have something similar here. Well, boots and chests are certainly more robust than minecarts with chests, they just get trumped by shulker boxes, so I don't even see a reason to craft them. I was just more surprised that they came out this late. At the time of recording this, the Trails and Tales update is not out yet, but at this point we got a lot of snapshots, so I'm pretty sure it's just a matter of 1 month or maybe 2 until they release the update. So I'm going to rank it based on those snapshots. The big features from this update are camels, a mob named the Sniffer, archaeology, armor trimming, and a new biome called the Cherry Blossom. And to be honest, I was surprised that they weren't added earlier. Cherry Blossoms were discussed all the way back in 1.7, so it's only normal that I choose Cherry Blossoms as my pick for the best edition in 1.20. 120. As for the worst, well, once again, nothing really seems bad or uninteresting, and they may add something new in the future, but at the moment, I think that hanging signs are the worst addition of 1.20. Like, they're a really cool piece of decoration, but everything is just better. Like, I don't know how to say this. Like, they're a really cool piece of decoration. That's about it. Like, that's about it for 1.20, and that's about it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Personally, I enjoyed making it, even though it took way more time than I thought it would, but I think that was worth it. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, and if you disagree with one of my picks, write me down a comment. Have a nice day.